What's up everyone, it's ENDYMION, and Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League is officially out there for players to enjoy via early access. And so there are some reviews showing up and players have impressions, and it's not looking good, fellas, I ain't gonna lie. Beyond that, I'll be diving into the DNA of this game and who is responsible for why things are the way they are, as well as Warner Bros. Openly stating they want to turn everything they own into what Suicide Squad is, and much more, so let's begin. I've seen all the cutscenes for Suicide Squad and the story is unfortunately not very good. In fact, it's exactly what was leaked a few weeks back, almost to the letter. I know some people might think I'm unfairly hitting the game down, but the truth is that its existence has confirmed the rejection of what players like myself want. Rocksteady, which made the Batman Arkham games, was seen as the pioneers of the superhero genre. They made it look effortless how they were able to create such a compelling and replayable experience with their Batman games. I know many of you watching this love those games, as did I. I remember playing Batman Arkham Asylum the night it came out, and playing it so much I beat it the day it released as I marathoned the entire game due to how good it was. It was my game of the year when it came out, and I still consider that trilogy of Rocksteady Batman games, even the flawed Arkham Knight, to be some of the greatest superhero games ever made. Even games like Insomniac's Spider-Man took obvious influence from Batman's combat, and it makes sense. Because Rocksteady was a pioneer development studio back in the day, industry leading if you will too. They seemed like they could do no wrong, and fans were clamoring to see what they do next. According to one player, who's the YouTuber Scirocco, who many of you likely know, they thought the game was middling at best. Scirocco is known for posting entire game playthroughs, cutscenes, and especially boss fights. They're a great channel. And obviously Scirocco plays everything that comes out in order to gain footage for their channel. So recently, Scirocco plainly stated what Suicide Squad was, like on Twitter. They said, and I quote, "Rocksteady's new entry into the world of DC here. Was it worth the wait? The main story will roughly take you between 8 to 10 hours if you are focusing on purely the main mission. The story is quite unique and does keep one interested. It also helps that the humor is well done. A lot of the non-verbal animations are really funny, and when you can make comedy work with just an animation, that is impressive. I enjoyed the strange relationship this squad had. Graphically, the game looks great, although the performance is mostly stable. Being reliant on a server causes occasionally freezing, stuttering to happen. Not exactly sure what causes it, but having tried a co-op game and the freezing happening for both players at once leads me to believe that the servers may cause stuttering or freezing for no reason at times, something to be aware of. Regarding the quality of the game in terms of bugs, it's playable, but that's about it. I encountered a game-breaking bug every 1 to 3 hours, forcing me to quit the game and reload. Either the objective did not show up, enemies would become invincible, or cutscenes would glitch out. The game is quite generous in the loot it gives the player. I got many top-tier weapons without even trying, and while the weapons do not feel different and lack variety, their stats tend to make a big difference in how you will use them. Let's discuss the overall game design. Bland, unoriginal, lazy, and repetitive. That is the best I can describe it. The game consists of spongy enemies defending things, waiting in a circle and defending it from enemies, escorting a truck, and taking down node missions far too often. Quite literally, it's essentially the whole game, with some cutscenes in between the repetitive mess. Encounters with the Justice League are by far the best part of the game, but the boss fights love to throw constant minions at you every time you do a portion of damage. And it does not help that the enemy variety is awfully lacking. Without revealing who the final boss is, the encounter literally reuses a past boss with some extra minions sprinkled for good measure. Utterly lazy. The game leaves little reason to come back to it after you're done with the story. Unless you love grinding for loot, shooting things while turning off your brain, then it might be a game you can kill some time with. Suicide Squad feels like a game that exists because the publisher wanted a live service game and Rocksteady had to do it. There is no passion here, no creativity, just modern gaming ideas that were done in every other game, only better. Rocksteady pioneered the superhero genre in the past and inspired many future titles, but this is just an average game not worth the asking price, end quote. Yikes, dude. I know some will say, well, this is a YouTuber, not a professional reviewer, but to be honest, when it comes to things like this getting reviewed, tell me what's the difference exactly between those two. Scirocco played the entire game already. It's been out for a day as of the making of this video. They experienced everything there was to do in it. And let's not forget that this is a game that somehow had a development cycle of 9 whole years. and you have people here already beating its entire content package in less than 15 hours. And there's already plenty of people on Twitter already stating they've hit max level with their preferred characters. So what is going on here? Oh yeah, and by the way, in case you do care, Scirocco gave Squad a 5.5 out of 10. Which is passable at best, but this is Rocksteady we're talking about here, so how did they go from being industry leaders to following trends? Part of this has to absolutely do with the fact that the people who are making Suicide Squad are not the same Rocksteady that made the Batman Arkham games, or at least not fully anyway. After all, back in 2022, both of Rocksteady's co-founders, Sefton Hill and Jamie Walker, left Rocksteady to create their own development studio. This is a massive red flag considering these two were absolutely integral to what made Rocksteady an industry-leading developer. Sefton Hill leaving Rocksteady is the equivalent of Hidetaka Miyazaki leaving From Software. In case you don't know who Miyazaki is, he's the man who conceptualized and directed games like Demon Souls, Dark Souls 3, Bloodborne, and Elden Ring. The Soulsborne genre exists and has become incredibly influential because of Miyazaki's influence and forward-thinking vision. If he were to leave From Software suddenly to create another studio, it would be an insanely huge, massive red flag. The point I'm making here is that Sefton Hill was to superhero games to what Miyazaki is to Soulsborne games. Losing people like him and Jamie Walker suddenly amidst the development of Suicide Squad at a studio, mind you, they controlled and fostered for well over a decade is not a good sign. These sorts of things usually happen because the creative visions are at a standstill and both parties cannot agree on how to shepherd whatever it is that they're making. So when I saw that Sefton Hill left Rocksteady, I knew this was bad news for Suicide Squad. And now that the game is out, it's clear that Rocksteady is no longer the same developer we once knew, and instead it's been infiltrated by activists and diversity equity index morons instead. Consider the fact that Suicide Squad has already been documented by early access players to have many woke pandering tactics seen in other games. Rainbow flags aplenty, as well as having consulting agents baked into the DNA of its very fabric. Suicide Squad, like Spider-Man 2, Alan Wake 2, and God of War Ragnarok before it, are all clients of the woke company known as Sweet Baby Inc., which is a consulting firm that, as they put it on their website, whatever your story needs, we're here to help. We tackle narrative and character in any form, keeping emotional resonance and authenticity at the heart of our work. We do story pitches, world building, character creation, narrative design, story feedback, and tweaks, and more. We believe that representation is key to connecting players and audiences, and we offer a few ways to help your team and project gain the perspective needed to make it happen. We're part of an inclusive and knowledgeable community of diverse consultants able to cover a wide range of cultural and sensitivity topics. Our approach leads with the creation of joy in marginalized players and seeks to be additive rather than strictly corrective. We do cultural consultation, sensitivity and inclusivity reading, risk and opportunities assessment, and more. I just want to give you some quick examples of how Sweet Baby has weaseled their influence into other games. Remember that Spider-Man 2 has a mission where you play as a deaf girl who vandalizes property, and forces the player to stand still and witness a gay couple asking each other out to prom by removing your agency as a player. Then you have Alan Wake 2, which originally had Saga Anderson as a white woman, but weirdly enough, once Sweet Baby was attached, Saga suddenly turned into a black woman out of nowhere, which not only breaks continuity between Alan Wake 1 and Control, but it was clearly a choice designed to push diversity and representation into a project that they felt didn't have enough of it. And who can forget in God of War Ragnarok, where in a game set within the mythological landscape of Norwegian Norse mythology, they decided to make Angerboda into a small black girl, when statistically speaking, there would be no black indigenous people within that region of the world. Sure, you could say, oh, you're overblowing this, but I'm not. Looking at what Sweet Baby has done to Suicide Squad, we can see on their website that they worked on specifically with this game, script writing, banter, cutscenes, barks, audio logs, etc. And this shows within the game's story, by the way. I guess I should say spoilers onward for Suicide Squad's story from this point on. So if you still actually care about this game's story, which honestly it's terrible if you keep watching, but I'll give you a second to click off just in case you don't want to know what happens. Okay, still here? Like I said, this woke consulting firm working on script writing and things like cutscenes, and of course, since this game is called Kill the Justice League, you do exactly that. You kill every single one of them in the game's story. For example, characters like Green Lantern get shot in the head without remorse by Deadshot, and Lantern's death is played off as a joke of course as well. He's even left in a set of Green Lantern boxer briefs after the ring is pried from his dead body. So it wasn't enough to just let him die, but Lantern is humiliated and then stripped down as well. Another death is the Flash's, who dies in this very convoluted fight that ends with the character just lying dead on the ground. Of course, Captain Boomerang decides it isn't enough to just let Flash be dead and decides to pull out his dick and piss all over Flash's corpse. So yet again, we're treated to another famed superhero being reduced to a joke and their death means nothing. Another character who dies later on is Superman, who after another long-winded fight convulses and falls down laying dead at the squad's feet. His death doesn't feel like a big deal, it's just played off as if, okay guys, Superman of all people is dead now. Thankfully, nobody pisses on him or strips him of his clothes, but they treat arguably one of the most iconic superheroes of all time like he's a stepping stone more than anything. Then of course, there's Batman, who I think you need to see it to believe it. Remember that this entire game takes place within the same universe and timeline as the previous Rocksteady Batman games. This is the Batman we all played as, and this is what happens to him. So, here's a clip.
Joker used to be real good at hurting people with words. But you, boop. Even when you're evil, you're still too good. You had a good run, Brucey. Flying around Gotham, punching bad guys, cleaning up the streets, causing long-term mental and emotional damage to everyone you knew. It's our turn now. After all we've been through. Oh. Bet you didn't think it'd be me at the end, huh, Bats?
Are we done with your bad stand-up routine?
Almost. But you always gotta end on your best joke.
As you can see, Rocksteady offs their own iconic legacy character and plays his death like it's a joke. Batman, the Arkhamverse version, which many consider to be the definitive version of this character in media, is killed by Harley Quinn and his death is played off as a joke. After defeating the Joker, Ra's al Ghul, Bane, Poison Ivy, Scarecrow, Red Hood, and more, our beloved Batman, played by Kevin Conroy, is murdered in an alley just like his parents were, and his death is but a joke. And I would argue the way Batman dies here and the entire plot of this game, to be real with you, retroactively makes the Batman Arkham games worse now, because we know everything those games did leads up to this moment. This is our Batman, guys, and he's dead and he's quickly forgotten about. What weirds me out especially is how Harley Quinn says it's our turn now.
It's our turn now.
She says everything else in her typical upbeat voice, but it's that one phrase specifically that stood out to me. She says it with malicious intent, as if that's not Harley speaking to Batman. But instead, Harley represents the new Rocksteady, standing over the bruised and beaten corpse of the previous Sefton Hill and Walker-led version. And them putting a bullet in Batman's brain is but an insult to their legacy, a cleansing of the slate, and a complete rejection of their hard work in existence. That scene represents more than Batman dying to me. It's the death of Rocksteady's soul as a developer. And circling this all back to how Sweet Baby's woke feminist charge agenda plays into this, notice how every character death I explained and showed that each of these characters are all coincidentally male. There's a reason for that. This brings me to Wonder Woman, who is the only member of the League who isn't brainwashed by Brainiac. And she shows up a couple of times throughout the story to somewhat help the squad, but not really. Anyway, she eventually gets to a fight with Superman. And after stabbing Superman with a kryptonite spike, which doesn't kill him, Superman blasts Wonder Woman with his laser eyes and effectively kills her. Except, unlike all the other League members whose deaths are played as jokes or are brushed aside almost immediately, Wonder Woman's is the only one that has sad music and shows the squad actually feeling terrible to see Wonder Woman dying in front of them. Harley even bends down comforting Diana in her final moments, and the squad pleads with her to allow them to get medics to help her. But she dies anyway, and the entire scene is played with grace and respect, as if this passing of an icon is actually important, and that fans need to feel the emotional impact knowing the Amazonian warrior is now no more. It's interesting that out of all the JLA members, the only woman in the group is actually not played as a joke and her death actually has meaning. Sweet Baby, of course, is a feminist agenda-driven studio that has ruined many things in the past, as I already showed you. And since they worked on scripts and cutscenes, this absolutely means when Rocksteady was having conversations as to how they should portray each member's death, that of course Wonder Woman's would need to be respectful and meaningful. Simply because she's a woman, and women are of course better than men in every conceivable way in the eyes of woke activists. And men are but dispensable tools meant to be used and pissed on, walked over, or desecrated once their usefulness has passed its value. The fact that Wonder Woman of all characters within an Arkhamverse game gets a somewhat heroic send-off is ridiculous to me, considering this game and the universe surrounding it would not exist as it does without Batman and his games. And yet Wonder Woman, in her first appearance in the Arkhamverse, is given more respect and screen time than Batman himself. That's not by mistake, that's a deliberate choice designed to hammer home Sweet Baby and Rocksteady's female agenda. These developers hate these characters, and their deaths and how they're treated prove this is not the Rocksteady we once knew. But it's instead been infiltrated and overrun by woke psychos who only see people for the color of their skin or what's between their legs. In terms of the finale of the story, the squad ends up getting captured by Brainiac after killing Superman, and they are villain monologued by Brainiac, who talks about how he's going to turn Earth into his home and all that. Anyway, Brainiac also has that weird MCU Ultron-like dialogue, if you know what I mean. Like he's evil, but he's played like he's so clever and trying to be funny, but it doesn't really land, if you get what I mean. Anyway, Lex saves the squad and they end up going to fight Brainiac once and for all, and then the game really shows that it's no longer made by a studio that makes trends but chases them, as Brainiac then turns into a purple Flash and you just fight the Flash boss battle again basically. But now he summons some minions with some extra mechanics, I guess, and that's it. You defeat Brainiac, who is really just a reskinned repeat boss fight of the Flash, just like Scirocco said it was, and that's it. You beat him, you trap him, and you bring him to Lex and Waller, to which Lex tells the squad they will now have to go to different multiverses to defeat the other versions of Brainiac. Effectively meaning everything you just did will have to repeat because this is a live service game after all. Also, Brainiac gets stabbed in the head by Waller and dies, and she and Lex walk away as if everything that just happened doesn't matter, which is honestly what the game makes it feel like in the end. Since there's multiple universes where you'll just repeat these things over and over as you grind levels and loot and level up your battle pass. If I had to wager, which no one yet knows as of the making of this video anyway, is that every time you reach Brainiac in another universe, I would guess you just fight another JLA member, but they are purple now, so maybe the next universe is purple Superman, then purple Batman, and so on and so on. So instead of making a unique final boss fight that could have incorporated Brainiac's unique abilities, instead you just fight the Flash again. This is modern gaming live service nonsense, my friends. Like Destiny or any other game like it, you just shoot damage sponges as numbers pop off to incrementally get stronger. And the entire thing is treated like a joke because that's what these sorts of games think of their player base. You're just cattle to be farmed for watch time and microtransactions anyway. Of course, during early access, Suicide Squad has already gone offline twice as well. So for people who paid $100 for the deluxe edition to play early, they have had their precious time they spent extra for getting taken away from them at this crucial point. Why even pay for early access if you can't access the game early? It's ridiculous. And also, as I was making this, there's been an article released titled True Lies, the Story of the Misleading Suicide Squad Leaks. This is from Experter.com, and according to this article, which has information gained via data mining, they claim that they know what happens going forward with the Arkhamverse. According to this report, sometime during Season 2 or 3, Rocksteady will introduce some magical bullshit reason that restores the Arkhamverse. Or the Suicide Squad might make another universe home over the one they originate from. It's not said exactly. Anyway, the point here is that the end goal here is to eventually lead this story over months or a full year until the JLA members can be resurrected and unbrainiacs apparently so they can fight back against Brainiac. They won't be playable according to this, but they'll be likely quest givers and stuff, I guess. Again, it's not explicitly stated. But the end goal here, according to this report, is that Suicide Squad will eventually end or reach a point where the Justice League is alive again, either in a rebooted Arkhamverse, or it's an entire other universe separated from the one we are in currently. Some may see this as good news, but this doesn't fix much of anything for me. It doesn't change the fact that the Arkhamverse Batman is dead and the rest of the JLA within it are off in ridiculous ways. And if Rocksteady were smart, they would course correct as fast as humanly possible and alert potential buyers into assuring them that their heroes are not dead. But this is just according to this article, but for all I know what they're saying isn't true. After all, the same leaker claimed Killer Croc was the first lead character, but we know that's not true and it's actually an alternate universe Joker instead. Which, by the way, an alternate universe Joker also shows that the plot of games like Batman Arkham City are also pointless now too. And the implementation of a separate Elseworld Joker lessens the impact of that game's story and retroactively makes it worse as well. Basically, the existence and plot of Suicide Squad does, no matter how you slice it or put it, makes the Arkhamverse worse regardless. Even if they have a season or something that reverts the plot of this game, then the question becomes why even make this game to begin with if nothing that happens is going to stick anyway? This is the problem with Elseworld multiverse nonsense. It never betters a story in my opinion, and all it does is ruin the legacy of anything a multiverse-like story is connected to for the most part anyway. Regardless if this all gets rebooted or not, Flash still gets pissed on after dying, Green Lantern is stripped to his boxers, Wonder Woman turns into dust, and characters like Superman die. It actually annoys me even more if it turns out they're reverting all of these changes in the future as well, because it shows not only can't they give something fans want, but they also don't have the strength to stick to their initial plan either. It just makes the whole thing feel pointless, and this game is just not what people want out of the Arkhamverse. We just wanted a continuation of the Batman games that didn't ruin anything, and between this and the other commercial and critical flop in the form of Gotham Knights, DC is really wanting to double down on this nonsense no matter what. To finish, Warner Bros. Gaming and streaming boss JB Perrette said in an interview that they want to make as many of their IPs into live service games. So Suicide Squad is unfortunately going to be a trend when it comes to WB's vision of what they want their future games to look like. And yet games like Shadow of Mordor and Hogwarts Legacy, which Warner also owns, have sold millions of copies. And the difference between those and games like this is that they were single-player games and audiences responded in kind. So if someone at WB is watching this by chance, please don't make more games like this. We don't want everything to turn into an always online play in our world experience that can be turned off and refused access to players with a flip of a switch. There's a reason why Hogwarts Legacy sold the way it did, and I promise you it clearly has nothing to do with live service elements. Just make great games, stop injecting everything with woke nonsense, and you'll make all the money in the world. Or you can keep making misfires like Gotham Knights or always online services like Suicide Squad, and I guess we'll see based on what the market decides. But as always, thank you for watching. Let me know what you think of Suicide Squad and its live service elements. Do you want more stuff like this or less? Are you buying it? If so, why? And if not, let me know as well. Like, subscribe, and share the video if you enjoyed it, and thanks to my patrons as always. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next one.